20 minutes.
All of us will have received the assessment of the bill's strengths and indeed its weaknesses from GSOC. However, I very much hope that the analysis will inform the debate and government's approach to any amendments that may be made to this important bill. As GSOC have said, its primary concern is that the draft legislation has not fully embraced the principle of institutional independence that should underpin an Ombudsman's office. GSOC is further concerned that this bill still imposes a degree of ministerial and occasionally Garda involvement in the governance and operations of the Police Ombudsman that is not consistent with the independence envisaged in the report of the Commission on the Future of Policing. That is a key issue, Minister. I accept there must be some interaction and involvement between the Department of Justice, the Government and GSOC. But if we are going to have an ombudsman or civilian oversight of the Gardaí, then let us have one that can do its job in the most effective way possible. That being said, I want to focus particularly on the issue of community safety, which is a growing concern to very many people. Antisocial behaviour is at all-time record levels. Drug use and intimidation is rampant in some communities. The elderly feel exposed and terrified. Farmers in isolated areas feel threatened by the lack of local Gardaí and indeed a strong Garda presence. I welcome the reopening of Garda stations in my own constituency, such as in Rode and Dangan in Offaly. That's very positive news. But a stronger Garda presence and increasing of operational hours of Garda stations has to be prioritised in rural towns and villages in my own constituency like Kilcormac, Clonaslee, Mountmellick and Kinnetty, where there are growing populations. This is obviously an issue that must be addressed and can only be addressed if the Gardaí are given sufficient resources, because I know that at present they are quite stretched trying to cover rural areas. But I do feel that it's something that needs to happen. It has to be looked at. Where we have growing populations, we must see increased operational hours of Garda stations and indeed, as I mentioned earlier, a much stronger Garda presence. I know that Section 106 of this bill deals with a national strategy for improving community safety, and that subsection 4 provides that the Minister shall consult in the preparation of the strategy with A, the authority, and B, such persons or groups representing community interests as he or she considers to be appropriate. I hope that this will include the widest degree possible of varying viewpoints, which should all be respected. But because we have seen in recent months how quick government has been to essentially demonise groups like those in Eastwall and other protesters who have concerns around safety. Minister, we know from your department's briefing paper on community safety that local community safety partnerships, LCSPs, will bring all services and the community together at local authority level, replacing the existing joint policing committees, to serve as a forum for discussion and decision on community priorities. As I understand it, it is intended that membership of the local community safety partnership will include residents, community representatives, including representatives of youth, new communities and the voluntary sector, businesses and education representatives, relevant public services in the area, including the HSE, TUSLA, the Gardaí and the local authority, and indeed the local county councillors. I would have some concerns that such a forum might be overly complex and subject to institutional dominance by the likes of the HSE and the Gardaí, for example. I accept that residents are going to be central, and indeed it's only right that they be there in identifying problems and solutions for their own community. And as such, the new partnerships will have a 51 to 49% split in favour of local residents and community representatives on the committee. I hope that balance can be maintained and that more importantly, that the views of locals are prioritised and not just listened to and dismissed. Any forum set up must have a meaningful impact on rural communities of constituencies. They must take on board the concerns of those communities, and indeed, more importantly, they must act on those concerns. And I certainly would hope, speaking from my own constituency in Laois Offaly, there are a lot of concerns and a need for, as I said, stronger Garda presence, and hopefully the implementation fully of the policing model, which has been referred to many times in here, but we're not seeing it enacted in full force, I suppose. And certainly I would hope that resources will be put in place to allow that community policing model to take effect, because I do believe it would be very, very effective and helpful in rural constituencies like my own in Laois Offaly. Garv Magat.